So this is our car journey down. I didn't want to actually film everything because I've done that in other videos. I just wanted to show you a different kind of architecture. All the lost years in between, I'm still a sucker for a dream. And you get to hear what Alex is putting up with me, singing along to Nick Kershaw and other 80s well-known hits. But yeah, this is us travelling from Scotland down through the northeast of the country. We're on the A1 for most of the journey, and I hope you enjoy it. So our plan was to go to Richmond, which we did. We visited the castle and we looked around the town. It was a really hot Saturday afternoon. One problem, I have misplaced the really awesome footage that I got of the medieval town. So what I'm going to do is try and find it. I'll try and recover it from my camera, from my memory card. But in the meantime, there'll be a separate video showing Richmond Castle, which is where these photos are from. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you've probably not seen these before, but I've been absolutely spamming my Instagram with wonderful medieval Richmond photos. You can probably just about make out from this bumpy footage that there's a rock face over there through the trees, and that's called Sutton Bank, and that's where we're headed. You've got to go over that hill to get to where we are, the other side of the dales and the moors, where hutton-le-hole is. It doesn't really look that steep, but check out these road signs. I've enlarged it for you. There you go. So we were going up the hill and Alex was really worried because I didn't actually get it on camera, but the car was at such a weird angle. And there's the rock face that we saw earlier. There's our cottage. See on the right with the blue door. I don't know how you get up to it. Because you park around the back. You see these row of houses up there? Yeah. I don't know how you get to them though. Really awesome view out of the window. So we'll go and explore the village later. And through here's the living room. You can just see the original beam coming through there behind the architrave. And then if we go upstairs, this is mine and Alex's bedroom. It's so amazing, it's got the original beams. It's so wonky in here. Hi. Oh, I can't believe it. And it was only 4 hours to get here, so we really think that we'll come back to Yorkshire again. That's our view from a bedroom window. Then we're going to see the bathroom and Mum and Dad's bedroom. Again, the original doors on here. This is Mum and Dad's bedroom. Everything smells really clean. It's all really nice. And this is the bathroom. Is this the light? Yes. Oh, also an extractor fan. Oh man, you can see how thick the walls are. So here, check this out. This is the original size of the wall. So my hand, my arm, is all the way past my elbow. That's really deep. Original stone cottage walls. So sink. And that's a little tour. Just turn off the light. And a little duck sculpture. Let's go and see what we've got in the garden. Hello dogs. I just thought I'd show you this massive flock of jackdaws. They were all roosting, and then all of a sudden, as the daylight started to fade, they actually got up and just did this for ages, probably about 10 minutes right above our heads. It was quite eerie, but also really impressive. So that was our trip down and your first look at the cottage. The rest of the vlogs are going to be us travelling around to local places. Like I said, we've got Richmond Castle, got Rievaulx Abbey, Whitby Abbey. Basically getting a taste of Yorkshire to see if you guys want to come and visit. The village where we stayed was around 45 minutes from the historic seaside town of Whitby. The drive didn't seem that long though, because there was so much beautiful countryside, and the amazing moorland to keep us occupied. At one point, we even saw a steam train chugging through the valley, which was very picturesque. This is a popular scenic tourist route, and due to the nature of the roads, there's no way to avoid it. Be prepared for some delays in the summer. This was September and it was still really busy. The reason we were heading for Whitby was to experience the dramatic ruins of the Abbey on the cliff top, and also so that my parents could visit places where my ancestors had lived around 200 years ago. We had the dogs with us, so unfortunately we couldn't go into the church or the museum. Whitby is a large town on the east coast of Yorkshire. It's also the mouth of the River Esk, which runs through the centre out to the sea. When we visited there were extensive roadworks and we had to follow a diversion to reach the Abbey. The town itself is a collection of historic buildings, some over 400 years old. It has a rich maritime history, and the first settlement was recorded as early as 656 AD. Whitby Abbey was a 7th century Christian monastery that later became a Benedictine abbey. The abbey and its possessions were confiscated by the crown under Henry VIII during the dissolution of the monasteries. That was between 1536 and 1545. Since that time, the ruins of the abbey have continued to be used by sailors as a landmark on the headland. These dramatic, ominous ruins have inspired many works of fiction. Most notably, they are mentioned in Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, Dracula. In the story, Count Dracula is a creature resembling a large dog which came ashore at the headland, and he runs up the 199 steps to the graveyard of St Mary's Church, which sits in the shadow of Whitby Abbey ruins. The abbey is also described in Mina Harker's diary within the novel. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most notable ruin of immense size and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend there that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. The story she is referring to is that of a young nun called Constance de Beverley, who broke her sacred vows of chastity when she fell in love with a gallant knight called Marmion. When the other nuns found out her secret, her punishment was to be bricked up alive in the walls of the building. However, the white lady in the window is not the nun. She is believed to be Saint Hilda, who founded Whitby Abbey. As well as these ghosts, it is said that a choir of spirits can be heard singing on the 6th of January every year, which used to be the old-fashioned Christmas Day. After walking around the extensive ruins of the Abbey, we decided to return to our car and get ready to find some lunch in Whitby town. Just a word of caution, the toilet facilities at the Abbey are very poorly signposted, and you'll also have to pay to use them. I think it was 40p when we went. So, make sure you have some change available. From the car park, there are great views of the landscape. As well as the Abbey, there's a museum and St Mary's Church in the same location. To be honest, you could spend all day just up there, especially as there's a craft brewery with a bar nearby. Looking down from the cliff, the town didn't seem too busy. But how wrong we were. Coachloads of people, day trippers and locals swarmed the streets, all with food in hand, and this was on a Wednesday. People were sitting outside of the pubs, blocking the pavements in the unseasonably warm weather. We could barely drive down to find a car park. Eventually, we ended up parking in a large area next to the steam railway, and that was just to gather our thoughts. We gave up all hope of finding a fish and chip shop or somewhere that we could eat, and just ended up getting some takeaway sandwiches from a local convenience store. In the meantime, my parents wanted to walk from the Abbey into the town to visit another museum and also track down the road where my ancestors had lived. They came down the famous 199 steps that are mentioned in the Dracula novel, and they said that it was also extremely crowded, which kind of ruined the atmosphere. Having pet dogs is lovely, but in the UK, a lot of beaches have restrictions in place between March and October. This means that you need to check the local council rules about which beaches you can bring your dogs to. If you're caught on the wrong beach, you can receive a fine. In the Whitby area, there are only a couple and none are currently near the town. We decided to drive about half an hour up the coast to visit a small cove called Rievaulx Bay, which had great reviews and was said to be very picturesque. This would be our dog's first time on the beach, and we were excited to let them explore. But that didn't happen. Don't get me wrong, Rievaulx is lovely, and the drive from Whitby was very pleasant. Unfortunately, the car park is extremely small, and while we were lucky to find a space, I can imagine at normal or peak hours there would be nowhere at all available. There is no phone signal in the car park as it's in a valley by the cliffs, and we couldn't use a pay point for parking. We didn't have enough coins left from using the bathrooms at Whitby Abbey, and big signs everywhere said that the Rievaulx Cafe wouldn't exchange notes for parking money. So, after a quick walk around the tiny gravel car park, we got in our car to drive back to our holiday cottage, an hour away. Because we were no longer parked in Whitby, we couldn't use the directions that we already had saved on the sat-nav. As there was no signal, even when we came out of the cove, we had to rely on signposts back to places we knew that were near our village. This turned out to be a whistle-stop tour of some of the most typical Yorkshire villages you could ever imagine. We took a wrong turn and ended up in the middle of the moors on top of a ridge with the dales either side of us. There were sheep everywhere. We hit a pheasant and got caught in a hailstorm, but it was definitely worth it for the views. In summary, I would recommend visiting Whitby Abbey and the visitor attractions on East Cliff. Be prepared for coach parties and lots of tourists, especially on sunny days. take a walk into Whitby town and again make sure you're ready for lots of people in narrow streets. If you've got dogs with you, it's wise to check in advance what beaches are available. Most importantly, ensure you have enough spare change to use public restrooms and pay for parking. If you're enjoying my Yorkshire videos, why not consider subscribing? I upload regularly and I'm always posting videos of places you can visit within the UK. We had some spare time on the way to another location, so we decided to drop into a famous small village called Goathland. It's a location where quintessential English TV shows such as Heartbeat have been filmed, as well as some scenes from Harry Potter. The latter is due to the very pretty steam railway that runs past the village. The place has a rich history and was first recorded just after the Norman conquest in the 11th century. There are a couple of public pay and display car parks and toilets are available. However, just like at Whitby, if it's a sunny day, then these are likely to be really, really busy. There are some benches around the village where you can sit for a picnic and a couple of tourist gift shops. You might be surprised at what you find in one of them. There's a whole wall displaying these items available to buy in 2021. There's a pub and some shops serving ice cream. We spent around an hour wandering about. Originally, I had wanted to visit Beckhole Waterfall. However, for some reason, the roads were closed and we didn't have time to walk there and look at the rest of the village. The North Yorkshire Moors Steam Railway is a peaceful place to visit, even if you're not taking a trip on the train. You can wander down and look at the historic buildings, the metal bridges and the platforms that appear to come straight out of a history book. Next to the station is a small beck where you can paddle or play on the rocks. We found some really interesting mushrooms down there and also saw a lot of little birds. Due to the sheep being everywhere, it was a bit tough to keep the dogs from being on high alert.
What are you doing?
I cannot believe there's sheep everywhere. As I mentioned before, this area of Yorkshire requires dogs to be on leads at all times, and it can get a little tedious if you have ones that want to go and say hello to all the white fluffy creatures every 50 yards. If you want to visit Goathland, I would suggest bringing your own packed lunch to avoid waiting in a queue at the pub or the cafe. Meandering around the lanes and exploring the village in full takes around 2 hours. They're having a fight in the middle of the road. Don't beat.
Problem is that you can't see.
Too busy having a fight. Beep them again. Beep them. They don't care. Just gently go forward. In this video, we visit Rievaulx Abbey in North Yorkshire. Its name originated as Rye, the river, and then Norman French Val or Valley, meaning valley. Its old local pronunciation was simply rivers, and slowly changed to Rievaulx when education of the community brought a general familiarity with the French language. The abbey and farmland were only a short distance from Helmsley, which is another historic location with a castle. If you wanted to make a day of it, you could combine the two. There was a lot of wildlife on the lane down to a car park, so we found it's best to drive really slowly, not just because the road is steep and narrow. Aelred of Rievaulx, the English Cistercian monk, was abbot of Rievaulx from the year 1147 until his death in 1167, 20 years later. He is regarded by Anglicans and Catholics as a saint and is buried at the abbey. The abbey itself was closed as part of a dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII, and that was in 1538. The grounds were then bought by the Earl of Rutland. He was keen to continue the iron smelting industry which had been conducted by the monks. This continued until its disruption during the Civil War, with the production ceasing completely in the year 1647. The abbey then entered its Romantic period, when its picturesque ruins became a beacon for poets, painters and scholars. It was one of the first major ruins to be conserved by the Office of Works, which was the ancestor of today's English heritage. This was in 1917. The monks that lived and worked at the abbey were of the Cistercian order, which was founded by St Bernard of Clairvaux at Cêteaux near Dijon, France in 1098. It was to become one of the most remarkable European monastic reform movements of the 12th century, placing an emphasis on a return to austere life and literal observance of the rules set out for monastic life by St Benedict as far back as the 6th century. The Cistercians first appeared in England in the year 1128. Rievaulx was established in March 1132 on land given by Walter Esbeck, who was the lord of nearby Helmsley. The arrival of the strict, reform-minded Rievaulx community sent shockwaves through the older Benedictine houses of the north. The first buildings at Rievaulx were temporary wooden structures. Then, in the late 1130s, Abbot William began the construction of stone buildings around the present cloister. The northern part of his west range, which housed the abbey's lay brothers, still survives today, as does a fragment of a south range. Rievaulx's most famous abbot, Aelred, had been a steward in David I of Scotland's household. He came to Rievaulx as a postulant in 1134, rising quickly to be elected as abbot. He enjoyed a reputation as a brilliant writer and England's most revered biblical scholar, Latin stylist and pastoral master. By the time of his death in 1167, the community had doubled in size, having 140 monks and about 500 lay brothers. This increase in numbers required much larger buildings. Many of the standing buildings today date from Aelred's rule. A monumental church was begun in the late 1140s, one of the earliest great mid-12th century Cistercian churches in the whole of Europe. The abbey ruins are vast and interesting. There's also a museum on site, but we didn't have time to go inside. As you can see from my video, there are countless rooms, courtyards and buildings to explore. There's even a stream that runs next to the infirmary. The signboards were really helpful and we decided not to get the audio tour, but we heard a lot of people saying that they were really impressed with it. Compared to Whitby Abbey, there's not much information about ghosts or paranormal activity. I also deliberately didn't research any of this before visiting. The ruins of Rievaulx Abbey are around twice the size of Whitby, and to be honest, I think they're more impressive. During our time there, 2 artists set up easels near the refectory building and the cloister. It was a very peaceful place to wander around. The only disappointing thing was that the gift shop was mainly generic English heritage products, and there was nothing that really stood out for Rievaulx Abbey, apart from the guidebook, which cost around £5. In conclusion, I would highly recommend this for a day out. I think that children will be entertained by its size and the signboards, and we definitely want to visit again next time we're in Yorkshire. Thank you so much for watching my 2021 Yorkshire vlog marathon. It's been really fun for me looking back over the episodes and seeing where we'd like to visit again, especially now I've got a better camera. While going through my old hard drives, I found this unfinished video from Rosedale Abbey. I think I never published it because I lost most of the epic drone footage and I was really disappointed. But nevertheless, Rosedale Abbey chimney top is definitely a bucket list destination for anyone visiting Yorkshire. Also, guess what? I've discovered some more footage I thought had been corrupted on that SD card, but it's actually okay. So there are potentially 2 final episodes coming out, which I'll add to the Yorkshire playlist. Rosedale Abbey Banktop has the historic remains of kilns from the Victorian age iron rush that took over Yorkshire and the north of England. The road itself is called Chimney Bank, and it's the steepest road in England with a gradient of 33% in several places, meaning that it's similar to some of the foothill sections on Mount Everest. We climbed up it on a warm, calm afternoon, and it was extremely busy with traffic. Due to the steep incline, most people drive or cycle to the top. So as a dog walker, I would say be prepared for cars every couple of minutes. And there's no pavement or track to the side which you can use. The views all the way up and from the top were absolutely stunning. You can see the whole dale dotted with farms and cottages. The industrial heritage information boards were very interesting, and the sheep running wild everywhere made it a really fun experience. I'd like to revisit Rosedale in the future and see other local places along this section of the Yorkshire moors. If you have any recommendations for North Yorkshire or anywhere in the north of England, please leave a comment below.